What's up, YouTube, man? Homie Big D back in the building with a whole nother episode, man. Uh, Before I get started, man, if you're new to this channel, what I do, I tell prison stories. I also tell other things about how prison, prison stories, prison politics. Basically, what I'm trying to do is enlighten young men and women from not making the same choice and decision that I did and end up in prison, man. And I did 17 and a half years. In my 17 and a half years, I had seen some brutal things happen, and I don't want to see other people go through that. Remember, man, they're getting out more time, not less time. But let's get to it. Hey, before I start, also, man, I need y'all to do me a favor, man. Do me one favor. Hit the like button. Make it two favors. Comment. Hit me in the comment. Make it three favor. I'm three. I'm done at the subscribe if you haven't. One more. Share it on your platform, man. It ain't gonna cost you, man. One Japanese yen, man. I promise you, man. On this episode, I'm not doing shots out because I don't know how long it's actually gonna run. But I'm gonna double up. I'm gonna do a story behind this, but I got to get this out the way because it's on my mind. And it'd be hard for me to tell other stories because while I'm talking, I'm thinking about the other thing that's been lingering in my mind. So this is not one story. This is a series of stories. And this is for any young man and woman that making bad choices and decisions that happen to run across this here. This is something that you have to realize. And the reason why I'm saying it in the title of the story, I'm going to actually tell you about getting old in prison. And when I say getting old in prison, exactly what I mean. Getting old in prison. And this is just a series of stories when that was a reality check for me. You know what I mean? About running across different individuals who had life sentences, who came in as young men and got old in that, bro. You know what I'm saying? And there's dudes that still do, that I started with, are still in prison, man. And they're older men now. They're older statesmen, man. And nobody never believes that once you go in prison that you're going to be in that amount of time. Even if you have that amount of time, somewhere something going to have to give, something going to have to break for you. It's hard for you just to sit on that time like that because I promise you, man, over the years, cold in the house too, over the years, you would start coming to a reality check, man. One second. I got to turn this heat up. If weather bipolar, you be thinking you dealing with something. One thing, man, the thing you know, man, it's cold as devil out here. Cold as Alaska. But anyway, let's get back to it. So, when I hit in 1993, when I hit ALTO, Lee Aaron State Prison, which is known as ALTO, it used to be like a camp for just young men and women. Well, I said men and women. Well, some do that like women. But anyway, for young men. And you didn't see a whole bunch of older guys when you first came in. They're just plain and simple. You know what I mean? Because, you know, when you first hit, like the oldest dude that was dying now, we used to call him Pop. You know what I mean? He was like 27, 28 years old. Now, when I hit, I was 18 years old. And you believe, because when you're that young, it's hard for you to sit and look at what kind of future or what your future gonna be like, especially in prison, because you just living, you know what I mean? And you just basically trying to get through, no matter how much time you have. And when I went in, of course, I had the life sentence. So at that point in time, it was 7 years when I first went in. They ended up pushing up to 15, and now it's like 30, 35 years. But anyway, when I first went in, you had to do 7 years before you came up for parole. Not guaranteed you're going to make parole, but it was a common thought and narrative that you're going to do just probably 10 years, at the most 13 or 14, if you don't take somebody out while you're in there. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, that was the common thought and common thing. So when I first hit, of course, it's nothing but like young dudes like myself. Like I said, the oldest dude was probably about 28 years old, like 10 years my senior. And we just thought he was like old. And I'm thinking that I was going to be in there for the amount of time that I was in there, which was 17 and a half years. But even then, you get caught in the thought process because everything stops for you. You don't have like the growth. I didn't have my 20s. My 20s, I did not, I was in prison for all my 20s. So the things that you was doing in your 20s are experiencing now in your 20s and you're that. I never got the opportunity to do that. I never got an opportunity to, you know, do the club thing and hang out with your friends, enjoying your freedom as a young adult coming up out of the teenage adolescent years, trying to find your niche in life, finding what kind of career that you're going to try to achieve as you moving forward. I never experienced that opportunity. It was the street penitentiary. That's it. I never knew anything past that. So, and right along with the fact, living with your parents, or even if you had your own spot and you were one of those advanced individuals, had your own place and own spot, and even then, you are just navigating through life, and you're not fully engulfed into what it is to be a young adult when you're in prison. Of course, everything is laid out for you. You're told when to go to sleep, told when to get up, told when you can go, what job you're gonna have. Everything is right there in front of you, especially then. And you come in young, and I see it now. Like I see, like, cause with the cell phones and the videos and everything that pops up, I pay attention. I don't mention that. I don't speak on it. But I see like these young guys and what they're doing in prison, and I was saying to myself, and how they treat like the older inmates that come in with them. And I was thinking to myself, like, bro, you don't even realize one day if you got that amount of time, especially how they're doing the life sentence and everything now is basically 90%, like it's the federal penitentiary. You got 20. If you got an armed robbery with 20 to 25 years, you're gonna do every day of that. Eventually, you're gonna be in that same spectrum in both as the older inmates. But like I said, when I came to ALTO, not to jump around, when I came to ALTO, I was in the same mindset as them. I'm a young man, and you got this false sense of immortality when you're young. Nothing scares you as much as it does when you start getting older. You don't think about life or death in the same sense. Now, don't get me wrong. You know that you can get unalive in there. Don't take that, not what I'm saying. But what I am saying, you're not looking at the old mindset when you get into the point where you can't do the things that you used to be able to do. And you don't have introspect. You don't have a look back. You know what I mean? Only thing that you have when you're that young is the nostalgia of the street, the good times and the good times only. That's the only thing you think about when you're in prison. Most inmates think in nostalgia about the street. As time went on, in ALTO, I started seeing older inmates come in. And when I started seeing older inmates come in, that's when it started coming to me and dawning in my mind like, oh, this is real. I could be here for a long period of time. So I remember I had first ran across this guy, you know what I mean, old man Rob. I had got cool with Rob. Rob was like, I guess that's why they be calling guy Unc or something like that. But Rob was one of those like Unc, you know what I'm saying? Like, he was basically surviving in prison by like, okay, every room that you was in, you had, we was in PMC. Let me explain that. It was like 16 people in the room. So they would assign people different things that you had to do. This week you had to If it's just your week, you have to clean, you have to buff the room. You have to keep the whole room clean and buff and everything. The next week, you might have to do the bathroom. Then you might have a week off. However they did it, I can't quite remember. But what I would do was I would pay Rob, old man Rob, just to do it. You know what I mean? On my week. If I had to clean the room, he would clean the room. But I would just pay him to clean the room all week, regardless of who week it was. And I also would clean him. I pay him all week to do the bathroom. And when it was on the outside, you know what I'm saying? So I just clean. I tell him clean the bathroom this week, clean my room every week. You know what I'm saying? And but me and him ended up getting cool. And I had, once you get cool with a person, you start asking a question. Because the older inmates, I realized that they took it as a sign of disrespect if you asked them what they was locked up for and how much time they had. But eventually, over time, we had got cool. So he was sitting in the TV room one time. He was looking at TV. And, they would look at some of the weirdest stuff in the world. They would go to GPTV. You know what I mean? That's the Georgia standard, the little Georgia TV station that don't have any commercials, that basically just show documentary and all that. I noticed that a lot of older inmates would go and watch that. I do not know why. If you're an older inmate, you're checking out that channel, man, older ex-con, and you had did a lot of time in prison back in the 70s and the 80s and stuff like that, man, comment, hit me in the comments. Let me know why they would do that, because I do not know. But they would sit around and watch that. But he had a piece of paper in his hand, and I see him keep looking at it, and he'll look back at the TV. He'll look at it again and look back at the TV, and like that. And I said, man, what has he got going? He writing a hypothesis or writing a documentary himself. I'm confused. And cause we used to laugh and joke. You know what I mean? We would join each other and everything. We would talk, jump to each other. You know what I mean? And I go over there, sit down, smell what the hell you reading, man? I go, you know what I mean? What the hell you looking at me? You gonna write you a documentary? So he like, nah, man, it came from parole board. I said, why you finna get up out of him? Because he didn't have a look of sadness or anything in his eyes. He was just like, he just says, nah, I got something from the parole board. Like, you know what I mean? I said, why you finna get out of here? But you don't see the sight. He said, I am excited about this, man. He handed it to me. I look at it, and it said, because this was like 2000. So it said, expected parole date, 2000, what was it, like 2008? I looked and I said, oh man, it's such a 8 years. See, it is what it is. You know what I mean? He put it back in the pocket. He go looking back at the TV. And I'm like, bro, it don't bother you? Like, how long you been in here? And he said, I've been locked up since what? 79, case 79. Went to prison in 81. He said, it's all good. I said, you got a life sentence, right? He said, yeah. And I like, you didn't never come up parole? He said, man, I got out and went to the halfway house in 1991. I said, for real? I said, you got out? He said, man, I met this girl, man. And man, and he went to telling me the story about he met some little chick at going to one of his little jobs or something he had got. And he didn't go back to the halfway house. He was on the run for about a couple of weeks when they finally found him. He been locked back up since then. I said, so you was already finna get out, and them folks ain't getting you nothing? Nah, man, got a state charge now. He said, you go to the halfway house, man. When you go to the halfway house, bro, don't remember them women, boy. They go have some big coochie I had, boy. It's been 10 years since I had. Now, hold up, man. The thing is about old man Rod this was his second stint in ALTO. Because I remember when he first came in, some of the older officers, and at that point in time, they was like up there. They was like, captains or something like that. They might have worked there when they were COs, now they wardens or coming in. I know they spoke to him like that. Man, come down here with that old shit. And we don't do things like that down here no more. That type of time. So, cause he had told me he left ALTO in like '85, and he went to Reedsville. Then he left Reedsville and went somewhere else. I can't remember. But back to him, back that. So I'm like, damn, bro. He said, yep. Came in here when I was 18 years old. And I think at the time, Rob was, don't get me in the line, he was well in his 40s, in late 40s, close to his 50s. And we call him old, but you know, that's really not old age. But to us, at that point in time, I was probably 26. Yeah, 26, 27 years old at that point in time. Yeah, probably about 26. So to us, you know, of course, that you know what I mean? He older dude. And he was sitting up there telling me, like, you know, he went from the whole thing about him getting that time like that. And he was like, he ended up like just telling me, like, bro, you know, you come in here and you're young and you're foolish and you think this is the way life gonna always be, like you always gonna be young. He said, but prison will put you in perspective and give you a reality check. It'll give you an understanding, bro, that nothing should be took for granted, no matter how old you are. He said, man, I came in at 17, 18 years old, man. Now I'm in my well in my 40s. And you know, I think he was like almost 50 years old. And he said, man, these folks say I'm going to be almost 60 when I get out. You know what I mean? He looked at the paper. He said, but it is what it is. He said, I've been here so long that I don't even know how to function outside of prison. And it made me pause. And it gave me a thought after we got through talking. And it started putting everything in retrospect. And I started looking at it in a different light. You know what I mean? I started condensing everything that I thought I knew and start re-looking at my own, give myself a reevaluation of my own life. Is this something that I ain't trying to be in here until I'm 60 years old, bro? Like, what the hell? I might have felt badder for his situation than I did for my own personal situation because of that. Fast forward up, I'm gonna tell you about my own situation. So me and Crash Out Shouty. Well, Crash Out Shouty comes in my room one day. He hits on my bed. Boom, boom. He like, yo, what's up? Now, mind you, this is a conversation that me and old man Rob just had a couple of weeks before that. And I knew that we was both coming up for parole. You know what I mean? He actually got his paperwork for me. We were just waiting to hear something. I had did the parole summary. Actually, the parole people had sent somebody out there to my mom's house. And he came in and sat down on the bed. What's up, Sean? I'm like, what's up, bro? He pulled the paper out and said, man, God, man. And I look on now, they had gave him the set off like they gave Rob 2008. I struck my head. I said, damn, bro. I pulled out a cigarette, a little cigarettes and stuff like that, kites, rolled me one up, passed him the cigarettes. I just hit you. I said, nah, you're going to need to get your own, folks. Because So he sitting up there, sitting next to me like, yeah, man. We said, man, but these folks said, man, these folks said, we you know what I mean? They gonna come out. I said, bro, we stuck, boy. We in this shit, man. He said, no, man. He said, man, no, what the folks say? I said, look, bro. I said, look, man. Old dude walking around here like old man Rob, man. That man been in here since the early 70s, late 80s or whatever, bro. Early 80s. And, man, come on, man. We stuck, bitch. We stuck in the beat, man. Oh, wait. We stuck. Ain't no going home. He dropped his head. He used to do this here all the time when he got on like, man, why you saying that, bro? Like, man, come on, man. I like, nah, man, for real, bro. It is what it is, man. Damn. When he fired the cigarette, he gets up, he walk out. Now, I didn't know about this here until later on in life. He told me he went in the room, put the shit over his head and went to crying. He didn't tell me that. Eventually, I got set off as well. And it started like, man, would change my whole mindset on a lot of different things. I actually started chilling out, especially with dealing with the police. I started trying to actually do my time without trying to catch court sheets and get into it with folks. It is what it is. You're in here. You got to live and abide by these people rule. The only way you're going to be able to change your situation, you got to change who you is. It came me a realization that I couldn't blame nobody else. I had to start having accountability to my own self instead of blaming everybody else. You know, because I used to always say, man, if it wasn't for, you know what I mean, Fat Boy, then I wouldn't be in this situation. No, if it wasn't for myself, me, I wouldn't have been in that situation. You know what I'm saying? If no matter what I did, no matter who said what, no matter who told what, no matter what, I put myself in the circumstances to allow myself to be in a situation that causes me to be in the situation that I in then, even to the day. So I started having accountability for my own actions, and which changed my mindset. You know, you can't expect something to change unless you change something, change things about yourself. You can't keep doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different outcome. That's insanity. Anyway, as time went on, man, I started running across older inmates as I went on. So when I went to Leesburg, and I'm gonna tell you the story about this dude named Big Country. Big Country is like one of those chain gang legends, but I'm gonna tell y'all this story. Matter of fact, this is gonna be the next Leesburg story that I tell. Keep me in the comment if you want me to speed it up. But Big Country, he had been locked up like 40 plus years when I ran across him. You know what I mean? And this is the world's strongest man that I ever met in my life in person. By far the strongest. When I say strong, I'm not talking mentally. I'm talking about physically. This man was strong. My God. I ain't no cow, man. I'm gonna say that, boy. I am not a cow. You know what I mean? I can tell you I'm scared now. Don't spook me now, because I do something to you. Now, if I feel like you finna do something to me. But boy, I promise you, I would never ever find myself in a situation where I would go in the room, one-on-one, man-on-man with this man, thinking to myself, I got a chance. And I don't fought some pretty big dudes. I got a story about Green Mile. But this man, from the fact that he was humongous, he was strong. It wasn't no cap on his strength. But plus he was a chain gang legend. You know what I mean? It was a name. He had a name. But I ran across him. He was locked up 42 years. And how he used to talk, he was like, man, I've been in here a long time. Because how we ended up building a rapport and getting cool was, he heard that I had been through ALTO, and this was the next camp. And he was telling me, he like, I heard y'all, and me and little man, y'all came from ALTO. I said, yeah. We went through ALTO. Matter of fact, we just left out there and came out here. He like, I went through that. Yes, I did. And he mentioned that at that point in time when he went in, they used to let you box. And he was talking about that boxing coach. When I used to work in the gym, I said, man, that man's still down there. Matter of fact, he just retired. He like, that was my old boxing coach, man. And he would bring it up old officers, like different officers that were down there. I like, yeah, he retired. You know, this dude, yeah, Cole, yeah, man, you know, his son ended up woo-wooing himself. And yeah, he used to work down there. And he was laughing about it. And that's how we ended up building a rapport. And one day he was sitting out there, he said, you know what? Because this is how they talk now. Let me tell you. Came in a young man, probably like yourself. And hit down now after 18 years old. They have 5, 10 years. Count more time. When I'm ready to read. I'm getting older here, man. I thought I'd probably die here. But I'm hoping one day I get out of here. How long you been locked up, bro? At the time, it wasn't 42. It was like 32 years. And I'm like, ooh, my God, man. And then I started realizing, like, man, I could be in this situation, man. I could be in here for 30-some plus years. As he was explaining to me, he said he did things to keep himself in love. And he started telling me, like, bro, don't allow yourself to get caught up with things that he had going on. But prison had changed at that point in time. But prison is going back to where it was then with the amount of unalivings that are going on in prison now. The amount of people being taken out, you know what I mean, brutally, stabbed, and all that. It's just a reverse of the course, how things was back when he was first in prison. And that's something that young men and women need to start realizing, that you go in there, man, with this amount of time, you do the wrong thing and you end up stuck in there for the rest of your life or for decades. And they're giving out time like that, man. As time went on, man, I ran across other inmates, man, that was old convicts that had been locked up. So I remember I was in Frank Scott. It was a dude in there. Nice looking fella, man. I ain't gonna, you know what I mean? That's not me judging a man or nothing. I'm just telling you that he was an older man. He had some real good hair. And you can tell, like, you know, he's a gentleman. That's how you would look at it. He was like, you know what I mean? He kept himself uniform straight, clean, and everything. And every morning, like, I used to go clean up the back porch, like the smoking cage and stuff like that. In the dormitory, I just stay in. I was on C Hall at that time, which was like they little Underdome, where you just, you know what I mean, where you just do your time. And I'm gonna tell y'all the story about how I crashed out because all this plays a part too. I crashed out because conversations like these I had with people. He used to sit out there on the back porch every day, and he was looking out. Used to like watch the sunset. Rise in the morning. He would sit out there just staring out where the sun would rise at, and he'd sit there. And, you know, I'm sweeping back there. You know, I didn't never want to disrespect especially older convicts. I could tell by EM them because they be having their own number. Or his GDC number. That, man, that thing is old. They don't even have many numbers that I had on my GDC number. And I was cleaning up back there one time, and I just wanted to know. After I got through cleaning up and mopped and everything, and he was still sitting back there, I went and sat down. I said, man, you mind if I sit right here beside you, sir? He like, yeah, you got to call me, no, sir. He said, but you good. You sit right, you sit down. Why, what's up? I said, man, I don't mean to be in your business. I know it's disrespectful for a person, you know what I mean, that ask you this. And I said, but I know just that you sit back here every morning. I just want to know. I can tell that you've been down, man. And he looked at me like, yeah. I said, how long you been down? He said, this is my 45th year coming up. He said, but I'm coming up for parole now. I said, 45. But he didn't look that old. He looked well for his age. You know what I mean? He said he was 60. I want to say 64. 60, he was like 63. You know what I mean? 63, something like that. But anyway, of course, he had went through ALTO and everything like that. When he was talking about, this is later on, he was telling about how it was then, but so we ain't not going to get into that. But we didn't talk about that at that moment. Well, after this, we started having a rapport where we would talk to each other. And he was like, yeah, man, been gone a long time. He said, my daughter, he said, you ain't got no, because I was like, you got folks out there, I can tell, like you got folks looking for you. He said, that's my daughter. She was just a baby when I got locked up, a baby. Baby. And yeah, I got grandkids and everything. You say, never seen my baby outside of prison. my child. It's what they play do to you, man. Did what they play do to you. Said, if I had known what I know now, I never would have did what I did. I didn't even ask him what he did to be in prison this long. But I did, like, bro, like, what you gonna do when you get out? He said, man, when I get out, probably spend a little time with my grandbabies. Cause they talking good. They say they gonna let me out. They gonna send somebody over there by the house to see my living arrangement. So usually when they do that, they back, let you go. They gonna know they say they gonna probably send me to a halfway house. He said, but when I get out, I'm gonna save my money up at the halfway house, spoil my grandbabies. They older now. But shit, I'm about to be a great granddad. That boy, he, he, you know what I mean? He's old pretty boy, so he got a lot of little women running around. I think he got one on the way. He said, but what I plan on doing, man, I'm gonna get me old pickup truck, man. I'm gonna get in that pickup truck, man. And I'm gonna get on that. I think they said that's like 20. They'll take it west. So I'm gonna start out there. I'm gonna ride that old pickup truck 20 all the way to California. And California, I'm gonna ride it all the way back up. And that truck break down on, I'm just gonna walk. So I'm gonna see this country. I never seen outside of where I'm from. And I said, where you from? He said, I'm from Atlanta. From Atlanta. It wasn't like it was now. But I'm gonna spend some time with my daughter. After that, I told her I'm gonna get on the road. It put everything in, and it put me in a mindset and thought process like, bro, this could be me. This could be me, man. I eventually crashed out. I got set off, and I crashed out, and I on this dormitory bully. You know what I mean? This humongous human being that was in the dorm with me. And I'll tell y'all this story, man. I've actually had it in the background, man. But I don't want nobody to say I'm lying. You know what I mean? So I'm going to call my partner, either that, or I'm going to have him got you know what I mean? That way, because he was in the dormitory with me. Matter of fact, he be coming on all my goddamn videos just about Michael Russell. You know what I mean? He'll let you know about Green Mile. About to do Green Mile, man. Hit me in comments, man, if you want me to go ahead and speed it up, too. But, yeah. I was in the room with a dude from Atlanta. He had 5 licenses. He knew he wasn't getting out. You know what I mean? He was a Muslim. Had been in there 35 years. And he was saying like the same thing. Like when he came in as a young man, things done changed. The way he see life is different. You know what I'm saying? And you get to that point, man. They're getting old in prison, man. I got set off in 2000. I got set off again in 2008 for, what was it, 5 more years? We would have made it 20, which in turn made me try to, get a lawyer and get out of there, man. And that's what I eventually had did, you know what I mean? Got out of there. So I was able to cut that in half, like 2.5 years of the fire that them folks shot me out. But I remember when I got set out, man, that was the first time that I had cried in a long time, man. I couldn't stop the tears from coming because my mom said this, because I didn't have any children when I left the street. You know what I mean? And that's why I'm so big on spending time with my daughter when I have her. I didn't have kids on the street. So when I was in there, after I got set off and I went to visitation, and my mom was crying because she said, I never have an opportunity to hold your child in my hand. Bruh, you don't realize, like, when you go in as a young man, of all the things and opportunities that you have left behind, you will sit in prison. If you have kids, your children will be grown and their kids be kids. You know what I mean? They'll have children. Your children gonna have children. And if you show no unlucky, your children gonna have children. You know what I mean? So take that in perspective while you thinking you are crashing out on the street, or you gang on the street, or you doing what you doing on the street. That your loyalty should be to the people who were loyal to you in the beginning, and that's your family, man. Not these streets, man. I did a video called F the Streets, but over time I'm starting to realize that was a bad video. That my mindset just took what people were saying on the internet, and I had agreements to it because of this is where I was at with it. You know what I mean? But in the end of when I started thinking about it, it wasn't the streets. The streets always been there. The streets were there when my daddy was here. When his daddy was here. Before, when black people came off the plantation, when black people started trying to find their way in life, after the Reconstruction, after the great migration of people, black people moved to the urban center, after the pulling all the resources, black people went to the place where they had to hustle. The street is there. That's what the street's always going to be. What keeps you in the street is your mentality. And your mentality is what leads you ultimately to the grave or to prison. And where it's just a grave above earth. Because trust me, you just existing. You're not living. I don't care how much goddamn motion that you get in prison. It does not goddamn give you everything that in life that you really want to accomplish. I wanted a child. I wanted my own business. I wanted my own house. I wanted my own cars. I wanted my own life. I did not want to be in prison, but this is the choice and decision that I made put me there. And it put me there for a long periods of time, man. Stay free, man, because I promise you, man, when you're sitting in there, and time go by, and time goes on, you go from goddamn youngin' to big homie to OG to eventually Unc. You can no longer do the things that you used to be able to do. I was at the halfway house. I was sitting out there, we were shooting jumpers around. And this young dude that was at the halfway house, he said, no, you can shoot, can't you? And it pissed me off past festivity. I got so mad at the dude. I'm like, hold up, man. Why you keep calling me Unc, man? I ain't your uncle, man. I ain't old, man. He said, to me, you in. He said, I ain't but 20. And at the time, I was like 34, 35 years old. I ain't old, bro. What I'm telling the man. He said, yes, you are, man. He said, because you like 14 years older than me, man. You know what I'm saying? You old enough to be my uncle. And I thought about it. I said, yeah, it was right. When I was born, my uncle was like 14, 15, 16 years old. The younger ones was anyway. I was like, damn, I'm up. I officially became old in prison. Trust me, once you get in your 30s and late 40s, early 40s and late 40s, you become Unc, bro. OG, Unc, whatever they calling you, man. And all that time, you're going to feel like over time that everything that you did when you was younger was just wasting time. You haven't did anything constructive to the people that matter. But it doesn't mean that you got to stop trying to better yourself. But don't do it in there, man. Don't do it enough. Live your life, man. Enjoy your life, man, while you got an opportunity, man. Walk away from anything, change your mentality to anything that's going to take you away from giving you an opportunity, man, to live, bro. The streets ain't the streets. The streets is the streets, bro. You know what I mean? It'll swallow you whole, but it's not the streets' fault. That's the choice and decision that you make. And, you know, situations can be bad where you have to hustle. You have to do what you got to do to put food up on the table, man. But don't be consumed by it, bro. Everything needs an end. Walk away when you can. Let it go, man. Because I promise you, man, you go in there, goddamn, a monster, and you think this is how it's always going to be. You young, you gang, you know what I mean? You blood, or your G, or your Crip, or you got mob, or whatever affiliation that you go in as, and then you start over time. If you survive to the point where you get to that point where you OG, then you'll start looking back and say, man, I'm just really wasting time. It's just existing. I'm not significant enough. I'm not doing anything to mean anything to my life. This is what my life is going to be. And then now you get overlooked by the younger generation coming in. Because as I sat there, it came to a point like when you're 4 or 5 years in, the younger guys that come in, they look to you for advice. They will, you know what I mean? To try to help them deal with their time, survive. Especially if people start pointing them in your direction, like, man, go holler at D. You know what I mean? Because they would be like, a lot of dudes like, man, go holler at D. Especially like a couple of years behind me. Guys, because I might have did it for them. And they might go holler at D, and they'll pull up and we'll have a conversation, we'll talk, and I'll try to tell them how to navigate to do their time. Now, was I always right? No, because I had a lot of wrong at me at the point in time. But it was always going to be on the pure sense, meaning like I'm not going to be on no BS, which I'm going to try to tell you, give you the best advice possible. But as time goes on, nobody pulls up on you anymore and asks you that question. The younger generation is no longer doing that. They're asking dudes been in 3, 4 years. And if they are being misled, they're going to mislead them. Everybody is not like me. And it don't come a time where you're going to get, your voice don't mean nothing because you're old, bro. You know what I mean? You're not on the same threat level as the young dude because they know you're going to be more strategic in playing out yours. You're going to try to find a way not to get in something because you still holding on and harboring that little bit of hope that, man, maybe if I stay out of the way long enough, them folks will give me an opportunity. But this is the last story that I'm going to tell about being old in prison. I was at Waycross. 2, I had a partner, T-Bone. He had been locked up like 7 years before me. When I got down there, he was still in there. And remember, like I told you, he was older than me. I like, Don, but you still in here? But I think he was trying to get a play at that point in time. I don't know if he ever really got out. But he left ALTO in like 95. And that's the first time I had seen him. And that was like 2009. It was 2009 because right before I went home. And I said, "Boy, you still in here?" And he was like, "Boy, yeah, man." He said, "Boy, you ain't got out yet, y'all?" I said, "Wow." He like, "Man." I said, "Hopefully, though." I said, "I got to play, though." I said, "Everybody's looking good for you, boy. I'm about to get up out of here." And we chopped it up and stuff like that. But this is not what the story about. But it did give me a realization. I said, man, because I seen him when, it's, you know what I mean, in 95 when he left, and bro was still sitting in there, it kind of made me realize, like, boy, I'm glad I got an opportunity to show no. Don't allow myself to get wrapped up in him prison politics because that on-the-door policy was spreading like goddamn cancer. I promise you, it would hit every goddamn prison in the state of Georgia because they closed down Frank Scott right along with the cell phone. It's going everywhere. Went from on the door to sliding. You know what I mean? So, yeah. We were sitting in there. But this is the last thing that I seen that made me like, oh no, I would never, ever put myself back in the situation to come back in here. Ever. Ever. I promise. I'm going to do what's right and pray to God that he protects me from what I don't understand that I'm doing wrong. And enlighten me and change me before I have to end up paying for my consequence of my action. It was an old dude that was I was in Frank Scott with. I think I was in C building, RD. I can't remember. It was one of those buildings. I think it was C building. It had to be C1. Cause I think D building was like the Thunderdome, but they didn't send me to the Thunderdome. They sent me to C1. But I ain't for sure. I can't remember. I didn't stay down Waycross long. This dude had been locked up probably about 40 years. He spent about 35 years. He spent the last years of his incarceration, like last 20 years of his incarceration in Waycross in one room. Never left about that room. They never moved him. That is an anomaly. You do not never ever see that. Eventually somebody gonna get transferred Something gonna happen. You gonna end up getting moved out that room. But he had been in that room the whole entire time. He had maxed this sentence out. They had told him he has to go. Try to put him out of prison. That man broke down and started crying. Not because they were friend, because he didn't have nowhere to go. They had to try to basically kick him out of the chain gang. And I'm talking about, really, I'm talking about they had to send the search team down there to get him. The man was in there with a lock, talking about, I ain't going nowhere. He told me, I ain't going nowhere. Y'all ain't taking me nowhere. They had to restrain the man, take him to intake, told us, look, we can't hold you. They told us to let you go. And the man was like crying, like, man, I ain't got nowhere to go. This is the only place that he knew was prison. The only thing he knew. That's crazy, man. Stay free, man. Don't put yourself in that situation, man. I know this is a little long, man. A lot of people got gonna click through this, man, and won't even probably view it. I pray that y'all stick around for it, man, because it is profound, man. Especially when I'm trying to push this narrative, this message out to y'all, man. Do not do what I did to go to prison. Or you can got done go in there from youngin' to unk, and before you know it, and life done been had passed you by. Your kids done been had forgot about you and knew that you never existed. There'll be people in your family that will no longer be on this earth, that you'll never get opportunity to see again. I'm talking about significant people, grandmothers, mothers, uncles, aunties, brothers and sisters, children. Stay free, homie. Till next time, man. The homie Big D, man. One love.